On October 9th, 1972, a group of friends on their way back home to the city of Adelaide decided to stop at a sinkhole located in the pine forest east of Mount Gambier in South Australia. The four of them entered the sinkhole for a recreational dive, but only one of them would return. This is their story. It was Monday, October 9th, 1972. A group of four friends coming back from a weekend of diving along the South Australian coast would decide to make a quick stop to a new sinkhole they heard about on their way back home to the city of Adelaide. Located in the dense pine forest east of Mount Gambier, a city renowned for its volcanic and limestone features including lakes, forests, and sinkholes, Alleyn Sinkhole was not a very known dive site at the time, being rumored to be only 20 meters or 65 feet deep, perfect for a quick dip in the water, or so they thought. The group arrived at the sinkhole and inspected the inviting crystal clear water, after which they started to unpack their gear. The group consisted of 39-year-old Dave, 17-year-old Christopher, 18-year-old Sandra, and 17-year-old Ron. Dave easily had the most experience in the group, having been diving for over 15 years at this point. But the rest of the group, while young, also had multiple years of experience, although none had any experience in cave diving. After putting on their gear, the group entered the water with a full cylinder of air, but decided to leave their guidelines in the car since the sinkhole wasn't very deep and there wasn't any additional passages heading out of the main chamber. This would prove costly. The group swam for a few minutes near the surface, before deciding to dive deeper to explore the bottom of the sinkhole. On the way down, they spotted what looked to be a passageway between some boulders at around 6 meters or 20 feet deep. Dave, being the much more experienced diver, motioned to the others that he would go and check it out, and for the others to stay outside. Dave went through the 1 meter high, 3 meter wide passage and entered a chamber with crystal clear water. He soon realized that it would be dangerous for the others to come, as the chamber contained a lot of silt, which when kicked up can impair your visibility so much you wouldn't be able to see your own hands in front of your face. After the realization, he turned to start heading back out of the chamber, and to his shock he saw the other 3 divers had already entered. But even worse, being complete amateurs to cave diving and not knowing the proper techniques required, they had completely silted out the way back. The group quickly realized what happened and immediately started to look for the way out, spending the next 30 minutes searching the walls of the cave for the entrance. But without a proper guideline, they were unable to locate the entrance to the chamber behind the thick cloud of silt. And to make matters worse, in their haste to try and get out, they ended up kicking up even more silt from the chamber floor, compounding the issue and making visibility even worse. Because of this, they would eventually lose sight and contact with each other, leaving each person alone to find their way out. With their air supply running low, they frantically looked for a way out, but with the visibility in the chamber now mere inches, this was all but impossible. At this point, Ron started to swim up a bit to see if the entrance was higher than he had originally thought. During his ascent, he saw a shadow in the murky water, before coming up to it and realizing it was a motionless diver, with the body floating face down in the hauntingly still water. Ron quickly decided he had to leave the body behind and continue his search for the entrance, but then he noticed that it was getting harder and harder to breathe. He was getting critically low on air. With it getting even harder and harder to breathe, Ron made one final push to try and find his way out. And incredibly, as the silt started to settle, he was able to locate the passage due to a faint glimpse of daylight, with his cylinder having only minutes of air remaining. Once Ron got to the surface, he informed others on the surface of what happened and had them contact the local authorities. Ron then proceeded to go to the edge of the sinkhole and started banging on his cylinder, trying desperately to help his friends any way that he could. Unfortunately, due to the nature of caves with their winding passages, this was a pointless effort. None of the other divers resurfaced, and considering how low his own tank was, Ron knew that his friends had already ran out of air. Although local authorities arrived at the scene, due to the nature of the cave, an experienced diver was needed. The bodies of the other divers were recovered the next day by a friend of Dave's by the name of Mac Laurie. Mac was also a very experienced diver, but this recovery would be a dangerous one, and Mac ended up getting stuck multiple times while trying to recover the bodies. Dave was the first body recovered as he was close to the entrance, but Chris and Sandy were discovered together in a narrow tunnel on the other side of the chamber. Considering the resemblance of the narrow tunnel to the chamber's entrance, there is little doubt that they thought they had found a way out, and were relieved before running into a solid wall, and slowly coming to the realization that it was the dead end. And with their air running out, dread now swept over them, as there was nothing they could do. After this incident, sadly, the cave became restricted to recreational diving, before being gated and eventually closed off by a concrete block. A factor as to why the sinkhole may have been closed was because the cave had gotten the nickname Death Cave, due to a report in the local newspaper about the incident the following week. Calling the site Death Cave gave the impression that the cave was the killer, rather than any errors on the part of the divers. The legacy of this unfortunate title persists in the minds of many to this day. It was later stated that their deaths, while in accident, was caused by negligence, and they would have likely been able to find a way out if they had simply brought the guidelines with them on the dive. Thank you for watching.